Hey everybody, welcome to the New Left on the People's Voice Network. Today we are continuing our series on Copaganda, part 2. We're going to be having Texas candidate running for the Green Party for governor, Delilah for Texas, and she'll be joining us shortly. So we're going to get started. We have a lot of information to be going over today. And before we get started, let's get those likes and those subscribes up. And we should be live on Rumble, Twitch, and we will be starting to post on Patreon soon. But before we do get started, what's going on with everybody?
Not too much. Just glad it's Thursday. Almost done with the week. It's nice out, and the whole world is falling apart and burning down. So what else can I say?
Yeah, my day didn't start off too good. I threw away some. I had to remember that cookies are not ice cream. I threw away some cookies. I thought there were some cookies, and I put them in the pantry yesterday. But it turns out there were mini ice cream sandwiches that looked like Oreos, and so yeah.
That sounds like that fucked with your brain.
Yeah. So cookies are not ice cream. That's what I have to remember. That's my mantra for right now.
If there is one thing you take away today, it is that cookies are not ice cream.
ADC, what's going on?
And all cops are bastards. So cookies aren't ice cream. All cops are bastards, and I think we're good to go.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get started, and I think we're just going to start with that Alberta story.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of Alberta is just the cesspool of Canada right now. Basically, Alberta, for any of you watching in the United States, Alberta is the Texas North. So the fact that we have Delilah for Texas, it really fits because the fact that I live in the horrible province of Alberta, and Copaganda galore. It's just terrible stuff. Top story, though, is the Edmonton City Council approved a $407 million budget for the Edmonton Police Service. So why that was such a, number one, $407 million for a population. Edmonton, I think, and district has about a population of about 2.5 million. So you're looking at like a militarized budget for a population of like a very small U.S. I don't even know state. Maybe Wyoming would be the closest example. And it's just there's corruption galore from provincial government and then this city government. And the other thing on, not only did they approve the budget, but they also voted 11-2 in favor of a new funding formula for the EPS, which is a deal that doesn't exist for any police force in any other Canadian city. So we don't know the details on that. Our colleague for Progress Alberta, Duncan Kinney, and his team have been covering this story, and Duncan has been basically censored by the chief of police of Edmonton. Basically, he revoked his media privileges, so they can't cover anything to do with the Edmonton Police Service. Only way they can cover anything with the Edmonton Police Service is with the city of Edmonton, because the city of Edmonton has still allowed them with their media accreditation. And all this came to light based on the newest provincial candidate, who's an Indigenous woman, Jodi Calahoo Stonehouse, brilliant leader in the area. She's done some great things for the Indigenous community and is very revered by the Indigenous community. The big thing is, though, her and one of the council members for the Edmonton City Council got into a little bit of a heated disagreement during a budget debate prior to this budget being passed, when she wanted that councillor to be removed from the police commission. So this is the whole thing that really confused me, number one, scared me and frustrated me, number two, is the fact that Miss Stonehouse is a member of the police commission. She is pro-police, and we're looking at going to running as the opposition government right now in Alberta, the Rachel Notley NDP, who are supposedly the party of the people. So very similar. This is like a deja vu moment of a Democrat Republican stuff that you guys are dealing with, and so this is why we're looking at it going, what's happening here? I mean, number one, how the hell is a small community like Edmonton, in the grand scheme of things, this is a bigger center in Canada, but in North America, it's smaller. How are they getting $407 million for a police budget?
I was going to ask you. Yeah. They're getting one police force is getting $500 million.
Almost $500 million. And this is after, during the pandemic, they got a $500,000 militarized vehicle, which they used for the Black Lives Matter, to keep everyone safe during the Black Lives Matter organized events. They have a couple of planes that are at millions of dollars a piece, and no one's using this stuff. Like, basically, we have our own military, just to give people a little bit of a background here, in Alberta, we actually have the Canadian military at the Air Force is actually just north of Edmonton. And so we actually have military in the province, but they don't have as much weaponry or as much resources as the city of Edmonton. So it's real, like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on. The police commissioner stuff, that really was a red flag for me. Going into politics, I mean, I'm a firm believer that we have to do something different. We can't go the duopoly. The duopoly needs to be gone, and Alberta's going to learn this quite quickly. Well, I mean, I think they've learned it, but that's beside the point. But they keep saying that we're going to vote Rachel Notley in because it's like Joe Biden. Well, we don't want Trump. Well, we don't want Jason Kenney again, so we're going to vote Rachel in. But Rachel's just like Hillary Clinton and just a capitalist. So you're not voting out capitalism. You're not voting anything for the people. Rachel Notley is anti-union. She spoke out against a wildcat union or wildcat strike proposal by the union during the pandemic, and she's against the universal basic income. So I don't know what the hell I know what she's for, but I don't understand how people that are disabled, people that are in poverty, would want to actually vote for this person. And I mean, I know she has party members, they're members of the LGBT community, and they've got support and they're good people, but I mean, this is, like I said, there's good Democrats too, few and far between now, but there are good people that run for the Democratic Party. But you get into that party politics and that machine, nothing's going to change. The other aspect there is we have a local activist, Taylor McNally, Black woman, lives in Calgary. She has been, during the pandemic, she was out protesting outside the courthouse in Calgary. One of the police officers who actually was responsible for the murdering of a Indigenous woman who was in prison or was in jail. So she's not liked by the police force. And actually, the chief of police, Mark Neufeld, actually gaslit her on Twitter over the weekend because she works with a group called the Bear Clan Patrol, which is an Indigenous group that works, does that mutual aid and does the direct action with our people in poverty here in Alberta. And she went and actually helped disable a person who had a knife that was showing they were in mental distress and was doing things the right way. And the police came in and intervened, and thankfully nothing happened this time. But the last time this happened, the police actually shot the man dead. So when we're talking about the Copaganda stories in Alberta, it's political, it's societal. I mean, when you have the chief of police in Edmonton, who's buddy and has been shown at fundraisers for the current provincial government, and then you have the chief of police of Calgary, who calls out citizens on social media and gaslights them and tries to basically they've also have members of the police force that are taking her to court for defamation. But the last time that they actually came together, her and the city police, Taylor got assaulted during their arrest and had her hair pulled out and her head slammed into the ground as they were arresting her outside the courthouse for an altercation that was started by an off-duty police officer that punched one of her colleagues in the face. And when she went to intervene, they all jumped on top of her. I have the video there, and we'll share it at some point. But the fact is that Mark Neufeld, the chief of police of Calgary, is notorious for racist slurs and homophobic language. And this is just more proof to this, of the fact that, and then once he starts something up, any of the people on the right, or the people that are homophobic and racist, like with the beliefs of the law and order, are attacking her as well, and it's just snowballing there. So this woman is been assaulted by the police. She's charged by the police. She's like any other person of the global majority. When you're facing legal ramifications, the rules are different for someone like me, who's white, and someone from the global majority. So this just is more proof of the fact that we have racism. The cops, it's propaganda here in Alberta, and it's capitalism, and it's working on trying to maintain that imperialist society.
Yeah, and I mean, when you go over that, it doesn't sound any different from what's going on here at all. No. You talk about people getting attacked at protests, a lot of, and then getting censored, and a lot of people are like talk about going to Canada to so they can escape the security state here, but then they don't realize they're like going straight to going to a security state with marijuana and the health card. Like, so it's like
you're jumping from the frying pan into the fire, or from the fire into the frying pan. You're still going to get cooked. You're going to be roasted, but it's different. And this is why I wanted to bring the topic on tonight for our viewers, is the fact that, yes, Canada is supposedly nicer. I don't know. People that I meet aren't very nice. We're more Americanized and becoming more Americanized than America's becoming Canadianized. And even if you're Canadianized, this is a country that was on the blood of and the death of Native American indigenous population that were killed for the land. So we don't have a really good history of being nice. We have a history of propaganda of being nice, and that whitewashed history. But truly, Canada is not much better than the U.S. It's like, you guys are the meth lab, and we're basically a marijuana distribution center. Like, there's not much difference from the step down to the step up anymore.
We here in the U.S., we tend to have a habit of just bringing other countries down with us, so that checks out. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the propaganda against France, when it's like France just surrenders all the time, but then you like look at French history, and it's just like usually them fighting and like either revolting or like going into war with somebody, even helping us get into our war. Yeah. So it's like it's all silly. But I wanted to move. What I want to go to is River Thames. Since we're talking about the international community right now, and we're talking about Canada, and we'll just go to another NATO country. So I don't know if you guys knew that the Queen has been having her Platinum Jubilee, which celebrates the monarchy, and I'm not sure completely what all it celebrates. I just know that it just seems very weird to be celebrating a monarchy in 2022, and so what ended up happening was we saw police. If we can get the video up, we're about to have the video up in a second, but we saw that police don't really carry guns around in the UK. They have a police force for that. So you call the police, and you generally a policeman or a patrolman that's your and there's going to be a trigger warning, by the way. And usually the patrolman that we see would usually just have tasers, and that's the case in this situation. But we see that it doesn't matter if you have a gun or a taser. If you have the intent to harm somebody and end them, you can do it. Like if you find a way. So it has nothing to do with just the weapons as well. So if we can get that.
This is a disturbing video, by the way. So do what you need to do.
Yeah, if you have any little kids watching, tell them cover their eyes or tell them to go out the room for a second. It's very disturbing. So.
Oh, fuck no. Oh my god. Oh.
Yeah, so as you can see there, he was tased to the point where he felt that he needed to jump off of the bridge there. And I'm not sure how big of a drop that is, to be honest. Either one of you have any idea?
I do not. But the fact that he is trying to jump off of any bridge or any... Okay, so apparently he didn't make it.
No, he did not make it. He died in the hospital. I know they were able to get him to the hospital, but he died in facilities. And apparently the cops are responding to this man having a screwdriver. And yeah, that was the Chelsea Bridge. That's where he fell. He fell. It was the Chelsea Bridge that's over the River Thames, and that was like the only way people would have known about that. Like people would have known about like, word of mouth, but like that was the only video of that because there was no other videos of that apparently, like that being posted. So we probably might not even have heard about that if someone wasn't right there watching. And
that's 13-meter drop.
Oh God, 13 meters, like
yeah,
So
into
there's
water,
no way
into water
that he's
too.
surviving that.
Yeah, like smacking the water. There's no way. And it said that he was in his early 40s, and I still haven't seen. I know it's Wednesday. I still haven't seen a name for. I still haven't seen anything up for his name yet, to be honest. So we'll find his name if we can. But yeah, that's just tragic. And yeah, and seeing that is just, as Austin said, seeing that's just gut wrenching. It's just I don't understand how you get like if you're there to if guy has a screwdriver, maybe just try to take him down first.
Yeah,
I don't know, but that's not the point.
Especially when there's two of you and one of him.
Yeah, it's already overkill. they were just tasing him and just watching. I don't enjoy just seeing people watch people squirm. That doesn't do right for me.
Right.
So.
Well, and the taser, I don't know if people are aware of, and I'm going to speak a little bit outside of school here. So when I was in radio, I covered an event with the pro hockey players or retired pro hockey players, and we had police enforcement there as well. And somehow drinking happened, and a bet came on that if someone could actually take being tased. And of course, when you have capitalism and wealth, money's just hitting the table. So the guy had a chance to make $1,000 if he would take being tased, and so put the two things onto his shirt, and then the police officer was actually at the back of the hall. So we're looking at like strung back at least 100 feet, and shot the guy or shot the taser, and then the guy was like knocked right on, like he was sitting down and knocked right over. So that's 100 feet of a guy who's prepared, and it's like on like it's on fabric, it's not on skin or whatever. So it's not like it's just shot at him. He was actually prepared for that 100 feet, and he was shaking and almost crapped himself. So I cannot imagine how much agony this poor man was in at, what were they, 10 feet away, maybe 6 feet? And they're just shooting him over and over and over again. The only hope he had for escape was that drop off the bridge.
I don't even know if those cops are even got in trouble. I don't even think they got in trouble. I think that was just par for the course. And I was able to find his name. It's Odysee Adeyemi Omnishore, and he was 41 years old.
And I'm guessing he's not originally from Chelsea. He's from another country, so they can just write it off as one of the scary people that have come in.
Possibly. Let me see. Maybe not. It depends, because sometimes I know that they do have a pretty big. Nope. And as we were talking about earlier, cops don't even have the guns in the UK still, unless you're getting the specific police force that does have guns.
Yeah. And
they're killing people with tasers. So what does that tell you? It's not the weapons, it's the system.
Right. Yeah. I mean, ideally, it would be great if we could, have our cops here in the United States not have military weapons. That doesn't take away that's really problematic as it is. However,
they still have knees, they still have hands, they still have feet, they have boots.
During the George Floyd days, when that poor senior in Buffalo that just got pushed over like aggressively by the police officer and ended up smacking his head and dying, they're in armored clothing. That
was Buffalo.
Buffalo is not been a happy place for many reasons, sports and actual tragedy with people.
Yeah, it's been I forgot that was one of the first times I was like, oh, Buffalo, New York, when that guy got pushed over. So it's just it's out of control, and it's not just isolated to the U.S. It really isn't.
No.
We talk about. I know we were talking about a couple weeks ago the fact that Colombia is probably maybe getting a leftist president, but what we didn't mention was the fact that despite all of the cop pro-cop protests and the police state that they were living in, cops were going into Colombians' homes and killing them and stuff like that as retaliation. So it was very. Very, very telling. Okay, we got ourselves got our Twitch. Our Twitch is up. There we go.
Follow us on Twitch, everyone.
Here you go. Yeah, our Twitch is going. And then it's just very telling about that. And our guest should be here soon. She'll be here shortly. She said she was running a little late. So what I wanted to do was, while we're waiting on that, I wanted to look into this investigation from the state troopers that you shared a little bit earlier, Odysee, of Ronald Green. And let's see. Just trying to. Okay. So apparently the Louisiana State Police are getting an investigation from the Justice Department because they have there was a mountain of evidence of them just mostly beating black males, and most recently Robert Green. And especially when we're thinking about somewhere like Louisiana, we have the cops are in cahoots with the local government, and the local government is generally run by people who are affiliated or whose grandparents or they possibly are directly still Klan members. So we have people like that running our regime in the deep South. A lot of the politicians elected are definitely pro-Klan, and I would not be surprised if you were to look back into a lot of these people's like past and think about that. But harping off of that, we have to think about the slave patrol, and we see like mostly black men getting like arrested in a place like Louisiana, especially with the type of history they already have with civil rights. It's not boding well. So what I want to do is I'm going to share this article. And you're muted, Andrew. Okay. Now, so they're like we said, they're opening it up, and we're going to look into this article a little bit and to see what's going on with the investigation itself. And here's some of the images from that. That happened actually that was the March 2nd, 2019. That was about 3 years ago actually. So they're just now opening up, like they said, it's specifically for his case, and it's been 3 years since he's been dead.
Was this the case that they had the protest outside the home of the judge, that because they weren't releasing the information?
I think that was. I think they weren't really. Yeah, because I think they said that they weren't going to release the police footage
yeah.
But then there's been like way more excessive force and beatings from the state troopers, not even just like like just a policeman, just like the people who were like straight up in charge, like on the roads. So it says the federal probe, the first such act against a statewide law enforcement in more than 2 decades, comes from more than 3 years after white troopers were captured on long withheld body camera beating, stunning, and dragging Green on a rural roadside near Monroe. Despite lengthy ongoing federal...
Twitter, Can't see it. If we could switch it. Still on Twitter.
Oh, it's still on Twitter? Let me... Give me 1 second. Sorry. And
oh.
Hey,
hi,
welcome.
hello.
And before I share that article again, everybody, this is Delilah. She is a running for governor for Texas for the Green Party. And right after we get this, we're gonna get you to tell a little bit about yourself and your platform a little bit, and then we'll continue on with everything. But right now we're going over a DOJ investigation, first of its kind in 2 years apparently, and they're opening up a investigation in Louisiana for the death of Robert Green, and he was beaten and killed like on March 2nd, 2019. It says, and they're just now opening up an investigation for him. And we were going over what we were going over was okay. Let me zoom in just a little bit. Okay.
Was Robert Green a black man?
Yes. Unfortunately.
Yeah, you see, there's like no sense of urgency from.
Exactly. And the thing is, the only thing that's made them go and start an investigation in the first place is the fact that there's been multiple offenses from white state troopers since then, just beating black males specifically. And they're just now opening up the withheld, because they had withheld the body cam footage from him. So they're just now releasing. They just released a body cam footage like a little bit ago, and now they're starting to open up an investigation. As you said, no sense of urgency.
And I'm not very familiar with the story. I apologize, but was there a lot of public support to do this investigation? The pressure was there.
I'm not sure. I think as ADC, who's right above you, he said that this was the one that I really hadn't heard about this one. He said this was one of the ones that the judge was withholding, and they had like a protest outside the judge's doorstep. And so that's not one of the states that is made it illegal to protest outside of a home yet. So,
right.
And it says, despite lengthy ongoing federal and state criminal investigations, the death trooper initially blamed on a car crash, and no one has been charged. So they said after he had they drug him, beat his body, they said it was a car crash. So yeah, as we see another long-standing, honest. Well, of course they're the ones writing the report, so they get to make up what they want to. And so Yeah,
They'll investigate themselves. I'm sure that's going to turn out just fine.
exactly. They're
I
going to
don't
be
want to
like,
be cynical about this stuff, but like, you know what I mean? I feel like we've all seen quite a lot and have very reasonable expectations.
exactly.
You know
It's
what
like,
I'm saying?
seen
From
this
what we
episode already. That's how I was
well,
always funny.
thanks
We
for
always focus in
catching me
that.
up.
But Delilah, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell everybody what you're running for and the platform.
Okay. You're like all these things. Okay. Yes, my name's Delilah Barrios. I am a Green Party candidate for governor in Texas. Will be on the ballot November 8th, 2022. You can vote for me if you want to in Texas. Yeah,
Vote
I
for
just
her.
have,
Come on.
what?
I said vote for her. Come on.
Yeah, please. No, I know it's definitely, I mean, I'm here. We've all been here for so long, and I really felt like there was a huge lacking in representation. So that's a big part of it, you know. And I'm a mom, and I'm an activist, and I am very involved in you know, the ongoings of my community and things that are affecting people. Everywhere I've lived, I've been exposed to environmental racism. It's like, and nobody's shielded from it. And so it's like that unifying force, like, hey, it's climate change, so maybe now's the time to take, you know, to care about that. So that's why Green Party, just, I mean, nobody else wants to hear it. So, yeah.
Hey, and to you, more power to you running as a Green in Texas. That takes definitely some courage on that behalf, because like I know it's a red state, but recently I know it's been turning a little purple. Am I right? It's been going a little bit purple. Probably not anymore, since the Democrats have been sucking for the past like year and a half. But
well, you know, historically, so we were a Democratic state a while ago. Yeah, and so this whole red state bullshit is really frustrating to hear, because it's like I don't really know a lot of people that are like, I love Greg Abbott. Like, I don't know a single person who's like, I love this guy. And I'm like, good, because I don't see a lot of good traits there myself personally. Yeah, it's definitely a struggle. I think it's like I'm very familiar with the struggle, and I'm just going to keep doing that.
exactly.
And so, it's one of my skills or traits, I guess. So, yeah, I mean, it is so hard in Texas because so much happens so quickly, and we're like the driving factor for half of the fascism that you see in the States, you know.
Yeah.
And like the human rights violations, I like talking to other people from other states who are like, oh wait, what do you mean segregation? And it's like, yeah, that's a thing that still exists to this day if you would open your eyes and pay attention to things. And it's hard because I don't want to come off like, you know, I know better, or, you know, like liberals kind of tend to be a little bit, I know more than you, and that's very off-putting. That's a terrible, I'm fully convinced they're not really trying to win. That's just my consideration. But yeah, let's see, you asked about my platform too, right? Okay.
Yeah. Well, specifically, since we're talking about the Copaganda, as far as policing, I know that I messaged you and you said that the community policing was what you were doing, that would be your priority. So tell us a little bit about your stance on that.
All right. So most cities have a budget, and at least I think everybody here knows that those budgets are too much for too little, we'll just say. And so basically, a community police is where you and your community are the ones that are watching things. Y'all are the ones that are armed. You're the ones patrolling and keeping things safe. And it gives everybody a better sense of, because they're not just people that you've never met. They're like your neighbors, your brothers, your sisters, your aunts, your uncle, like all of the people that you're familiar with. And it's a really good strategy of empowerment too, because then it kind of solves that. Everybody likes to conflate gun violence with mental health, and that's really not. There are so many things I could talk about right now, but I'm not. That's just the wrong way to approach the situation. What is really needed is to foster that sense of community and that sense of responsibility, and kind of, I don't want to sound too cliche, but a little bit of faith in your fellows because that's who you call. Like it's not a very foreign concept. I think most people, especially in the state, could get on board with that. But that, to me, that's the solution, because I obviously we cannot trust the police to do the right thing. That's not what they're there for. If we really have to, we have to evaluate what their role is, and their role isn't for the people. It's more or less about property and financial wealth, and that's not really that doesn't really have a lot of a place in functioning communities. So that's why I speak on that a lot, because it's the best thing to solve the problems and get to the root of the problems too. We have this unbalanced power struggle ongoing, and you have a lot of people that are in need and left uncared for, basically. So there's a lot of things that we need to do better, and that's one solution that I'm happy to stand behind.
Awesome. Let me see. What I want to get into next is I was going to play I don't know if y'all saw the Tempe. I always forget how to say Tempe, Arizona, I guess. But there is another cop story from Tempe, Arizona last week, and it had to also do with a man drowning.
Oh my God!
So
I read about that.
I am going to, let me see. Okay. So yeah, it's another terrible one.
Trigger warning.
Once again, another trigger warning. Now this happened Monday. This happened on Monday, and it happened at Tempe Beach Park. And his name was Sean Bickings, and the cops were pretty much just like, I think they either pulled him over, he was walking, and they just illegal. They were just for no reason. They were just profiling. So and the cops trying to say that he was fighting, but that wasn't the case. And when he finally got away, he jumped into the river, just like the other guy jumped in the river, even though the other dude fell in the river in the UK. He jumped in the river, and as we're about to see, when he jumped in the river, the cops kind of just stood there instead of actually doing anything.
Body camera video from the man drowned.
Depressing. I hate this.
Called there for a domestic violence incident. The department released the video up until you see the man struggling in the water. After that, they put out a transcript. Take a look. Police say they were called about a domestic violence incident between Sean Bickings and his wife. Officers say there was no crime, but they ran his name and found out that he had warrants. So the body camera video, you see him there on the ledge.
Well, I'll run the man's name.
Climbing over the railing on the left side of your screen, and then he gets into the water and starts to swim away. Well, in the transcript, police say Bickings says he's drowning multiple times, begged for help. An officer says that they will not jump into the water. And the rest of the transcript is an argument between Bickings' wife and the officers as she asks them to save his life. His body was pulled from the lake later that day. Tempe Police Chief Jeff Glover called the death a tragedy, and Glover is now asking outside agencies to investigate the officer's response.
What is his name again?
Sean Bickings. Oh,
Bickings?
Sean Bickings. And the thing is, so like they said that there was no reason for there was no criminal case there, and they ran his name anyways.
I mean, that's just, I hate it. That's just what they do. Like every time, that's the role of them, right? Anytime they're called, they're trying to get information. They're trying to get intel on you. They're trying to pin something on you. That's just what they're supposed to do. They're trained to do that stuff. And it's very fucking unhelpful because people drown that don't need to drown.
They weren't even they said they weren't even fighting. They said they were just having like a little, like they're having an argument, and then like the cops got involved. And what, especially since they just like were like, I'm not gonna get in. I'm just gonna stand here.
Yeah.
Dude was just literally was just watching like he was watching ducks or some shit. And once again, we see, and I think they have been put on paid administrative leave after just watching a person die, not even, with no sense of urgency. So
almost like giving them incentive to be shitty.
Exactly.
As a
And
layperson.
Has anybody on here ever worked somewhere and then something happened and then they were like, we're gonna like put you on some paid leave and we're gonna make sure that you're paid while you're chilling at home?
Yeah, that's kind of the same problem with the politicians, right? Like they get paid to do nothing. And I mean, it's worse, obviously. I think with police, I guess the severity of the abuses, it's more violent, but it's still a form of violence.
And I think the politicians are a little bit more scared of the police too, since they do have, and the police have the guns. So sometimes I think that the politicians don't want to go after the police because they know the unions are just gonna like retaliate really hard.
Are really strong.
If y'all knew,
the only pro-union.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be real too. Like retail workers, if someone were to like collapse in the store, retail workers have more of an expectation to do something, to help their customers than these cops did. Yeah.
What were you about to say?
Well, I have so many stories about me and police though, so I'm just like, I'll try to pick one. There's a few, but yeah, cops and nurses and healthcare workers have been button heads a lot too, and I think that just kind of is a good like idea of where things are going. I really don't. Anybody could be like, anytime you talk to a cop, it's like, why are you talking to me? What do you want? Please leave me alone. Like that is how it's supposed to be, because like you're sniffing around, bothering people because that's what you do, and then you're all testy because you get called out on it, and then you're a violent, abusive, crappy employee.
Most people are just like, what was you trying to hide? It's like, if you don't get uncomfortable when the cops are going around, you're probably helping. And that
it's so easy to get arrested. It's so easy, you could do fuck all, and they'll just be like, I don't like the way you look, or anyway. Yes, they did go on vacation. They get a lot of vacation days. I was just reading the chat. Yeah, no.
The cops are very ignorant. Just like the start. I'm sure, Delilah, you had that experience. Like when your experience with the police, there's a arrogance or an ignorance like right away that is like trying to get you off guard.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've met 1 out of 15 that's decent in my experiences. So, I think that it's part of the nature of the job, and I don't think that it's kind of like how the Democrats have that inside-outside strategy. Like that's not how it works. It's not designed to work like that, and it's not designed to work for you, at least in the way in today's time. So, what are we doing here? I'm tired of wasting time and money on things that don't work.
Exactly. And you were on with one of our colleagues, JB, on the weekend, and you brought up he's fantastic, brother from another mother. Like we all love JB and want him to be on our shows as much as, but the guy has to rest and that. Yeah. But you brought up that there is a city in Texas that has done the defunding of the police.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah, it's true. Austin defunded their police station, and they were able to offer affordable housing and other things to people with that money, which was obviously a benefit. And then obviously a lot of politicians and lobbyists were highly invested in creating more division about the homeless population, and so some things like failed. And so I feel like we were just, every little bit of progress, it's like, it's so easy to get knocked back, and like we have a homeless population problem in Austin. It's like there's a lot of unhoused people like just out there in the elements in Texas. It's like 100-something degrees, and people are like, they're the problem.
Can't even imagine.
Why are they like they're sleeping on the street? They're not bothering anybody. You're just like blaming their horrible lives on themselves because you're selfish, and that's just crappy. Sorry.
Yeah, seeing like a park bench with like a ball on it or like a giant thing on it so someone can sleep on it is like it doesn't even make. And then sometimes the worst part, it'll be like an inclusive rock, so it'll be like a rainbow rock, and it's just like making a homeless person like it's like what do you see what you're doing?
Oh yeah, I know. It makes you want to destroy property, and you're like, oh, I'm not supposed to break the law.
The
It's
police,
like,
the police will really work if you start destroying property.
well, and
So-
think about that. Like the people who actually get away with the most are the rich people who, you know, the laws are designed to protect them, not us. So it's like, you're not going to catch me saying like, oh, I love them. No, you're not. No, I'm sorry, but I can't. There's some lines I cannot cross. And that's my, like, I met a cop one time. Oh my God. And it was just so shitty. And I was actually a kid. I was a little kid when this happened. And like our car, we were having car trouble. And normally in Texas, people are like, hey, you need help changing your tire or something? Because like we try to be decent folk. And it was a cop, unfortunately, that came by to help.
Oh.
And was just proceeded to like waste everybody's fucking time for like an hour. Like the keys were somewhere and he's like, yeah, I can't really do much. And then just proceeded to dick around for like 30 more fucking minutes. And I was like, that useless son of a bitch. And I was a kid and I was like so mad. And I don't know if that was how I phrased it then, but I definitely, in telling you the story, that is what the thought was. That is the feeling.
Radicalization.
And the frustration, I was like, what is he? Absolutely useless people doing fucking, you know, and it's just like, we pay for that guy to sit in his car and like profile people and judge women and talk about people's bodies and just be really very fucking comfortable with it. Like, I think there's something wrong there.
It is. It's something truly and deep. There's something deeply wrong with that kind of system, and the fact that, like you said, he was just chilling, just hanging out.
Know. Like I can't help you,
solving a murder or something.
Like, you know, I wouldn't put it past that he was probably flirting with my mom. Like, cause that's. Does that sound like, if we're profiling people, does that sound something that would never happen? Okay. So anyway, I mean, that's just part of it. Like, and everybody that I know, I mean, they're like, I don't want to call them. I don't want them involved in my life at all, like ever. And you shouldn't, you know, it's a mess. It's such a mess. Even and I'm not like, oh, you shouldn't have a job, but like that job shouldn't exist because it's not a very good position.
You can find other jobs for people.
Exactly. There's a lot of good that can actually be done. You don't have to be like that.
And I do agree with you. I'm in South Carolina, so I meet people all the time, and they don't seem to be as pro cop as people try to make out. Let's be it. Like most people around here don't want cops in their business, and even some of the most pro cop people are just like, nah, like we don't want them there.
No, I don't want to hear.
It really does cause trouble.
Yeah, there was a meme going around on Instagram that was like, this thin blue line doesn't run into schools, because that was what happened, and like people had to go. And you know what? None of this is okay. None of this is acceptable, right? I don't know how else to process things. Like, I'm a millennial, like, so that's just part of it, right? Like, I have to just be able to process it.
The tragedy happened to me.
Like, how many tragedies do we have to see and experience? How many collective episodes of misery do we have to go through? How often? When's the frequency going to change? Like, that's, you know what I'm saying? I'm just at this point, and it's a lot.
Speaking of cops not running into buildings, I wanted to segue into Ulvade, especially since you are the resident from Texas that we have on the night. And so we're gonna play this clip first, and then we just want to get some of your thoughts on it, because, like you said, I know you're a mom, and it's just heartbreaking. And I didn't want. Personally, this is a story I've been kind of trying to go around, because every time I'm like looking at it, I'm just like,
heartache.
Yeah, it's a little. It's sometimes it's just too much. Depending on the time, catch me on the wrong time of the day, and that comes on, I'm just like, I'm gonna go lay down and go to sleep forever now. Here we go. So, can you hear this?
has named a team to review law enforcement's response to the mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas last month. Officers have been criticized for waiting over an hour to enter Robb Elementary School and confront the shooter who killed 19 children and 2 teachers. Attorney General Merrick Garland says the DOJ will conduct a critical incident review in order to best understand what happened on May 24th.
The Justice Department is undertaking a critical incident review of the law enforcement response that day at the request of the Uvalde mayor. The review will be comprehensive, it will be transparent, and it will be independent. We will be assessing what happened that day. We will be doing site visits at the school.
And Ralph Salento joins me now for more. He is an adjunct professor at John Jay College of Criminal Justice and a retired NYPD lieutenant commander of detectives. Ralph, thanks for being here. So similar reviews have been conducted in the wake of previous mass shootings. Tell us, what will the DOJ be looking into this time?
Well, if the DOJ has nothing else, they have manpower. So they'll be sending several dozen people to comb over the incident, walk the hallways, review hours and hours of 911 tapes and police radio transmissions. They are going to interview several witnesses, the children, faculty, parents, basically every law enforcement officer that responded or was involved over the radio. And it's a massive undertaking. And an incident this large with so many apparent missteps deserves every bit of manpower that it gets. And it's also very important to have it done by an independent auditor, such as the DOJ, because even if the Texas Department of Public Safety does a great job at their own internal investigation, the results will always be in question because, there's argument.
Well, it looks like we're getting an independent investigation from the United States government, almost 2 weeks later, after eventually they said they weren't going to do it?
After Matthew McConaughey had to talk, then they were like, okay, you know what? Maybe we'll listen to you. No, I don't. I swear to God. I was just in my head. I was like, oh, that's your solution, though. More of the same of the problem is going to. And I'm thinking like, oh, all the evidence these dumb fuckers are going to destroy. I'm sorry, but like.
More of the problem. We just saw today also, and I don't think I wasn't able to put it in our sources or anything yet. I'll put it in there later. But Uvalde just approved more police for their schools. So
look at me.
There we go. You're predicting the future.
No, I am very. I really had to process some of my anger with the situation because I think most people who've survived something understand things a little bit better than others, and I fully understand the anger and the upset. And I knew, I have not even been able to go down there myself personally because I don't want to be something that takes, you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to capitalize off this moment. I honestly, just as a parent and a healthcare worker and somebody who's every life that you lose is it's a loss. And for people to it's common to just say 19 students died. And that has been repeated how many thousands of times. And it's it doesn't seem to really matter to some people. And it's everybody's asking for the answers and nobody's offering any real solutions. I think one person was we got to tear down the school. And it's you really do need to investigate though, because there needs to be accountability. I don't know that there ever will be, but I think people should definitely have some sense of, responsibility for their errors and the things that they did that were wrong and unjust. But yeah, it's hard. I have been watching and paying attention with a lot of great deal of interest. And, I talked to my kids about this. This isn't the first time there's been a mass shooting in the state. It's kind of a thing, and I think everybody that lives here has to just digest that fact. That's our state. That's where we live.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know where Z popped out. So hopefully he'll be coming back in a little bit. But yeah, let's look at. So we'll just look at the clip right here that we have. So which senators have benefited the most from NRA money? So feel free to scroll down, and it's a lot. It's a lot of senators. Mitt Romney is number one. Surprise, surprise. And it's a little hard. Would you mind zooming in a little bit, Ludin? Yeah, Marco Rubio, of course. And what's up, Z? Feel free to take it away. We're just taking a look at the NRA.
I wanted to say that So the House passed that bill yesterday, and one of the top people who was coming out against gun control, surprise, Mitt Romney. And I'm pretty sure he takes the most money from the NRA. So,
that's the whole problem with the NRA. They're just purely capitalists. They have no sense, and politicians enable them. So that's a whole flaw in the function of this. At least with Greens, I know people have their complaints. We take zero corporate money. Because at the end of the day, like, sometimes it's even hard to find out. You have to wait a few cycles for them to report to actually know. Like, when is this data that you're showing me?
Let me see.
Like 2020 last.
Yeah, you're right. That's 2020. It was last cycle.
So you won't know. I mean,
probably more than that now.
That's part of the problem.
You know they're gonna have to pay them more money now to hold the line, because that shit's just getting hot. So.
Yeah, even Joe Biden's taking money from them, and he's like, "Oh, my heart." This guy.
And you're right, because you also think about the fact of how they like move the money around. So a lot of it you might not even see. I mean, people act like people don't meet on yachts and hand over suitcases and shit anymore. That kind of shit happens still.
Well, and that's the whole thing. Like dark money. Who would be like okay with any association to that?
Nobody.
You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather be poor. Okay, thank you. I don't know. And I know that's like, people are like, that's very foolish. And I'm like, you know what? That's fine. Because my name's not on that fucking chart. So.
Yeah,
it's not gonna be.
No, this chart is a chart of shame. Is in the future going to be a chart of shame for people. But at this moment in time, I don't know what the hell it is. I know that the only time the NRA even considered acting and did have some kind of acting was when Ronald Reagan got fucking scared because the Black Panthers were protesting in his building. So it takes armed Black people to get gun control. So I'll start working on that.
Nixon was also for gun control too, I think, right? Yeah.
What was that?
I think Nixon was also for gun control as well, but for similar reasons.
Exactly.
Probably. Yeah, nobody wants an uprising. Oh, those are. But we're like, how about we don't have any like more dead kids by this kind of thing? That's the whole thing. People are so divided on me and my issues. Like, I think I'm fairly consistent. Like, I've never been somebody that's like, let's ban assault rifles. Like, because to me, as a practical person, if you understand, that you have already a very large armed society. So if you're like, what is the power dynamics? You know what I'm saying? There's things that can be done that are very reasonable, but
when you say practicality, like, I feel that like that's the difference between being conservative in name and actually being conservative as in like being like, because like you can be
like what the word's supposed to mean.
Exactly, because you're actually like, well, how about we conserve life? Not in like there's things you can't politically you can't be conservative about, like life or death, like death issues. Are you just a piece of shit, in my opinion? Like, you should be able to. Oh, sorry.
No, most people that are conservatives or consider themselves that way. They're like against healthcare rights, or like people being they're anti-poverty, they're anti they're anti-black, brown, indigenous, like others. Like, it's very clear. And I know that people get so sensitive about race and issues like that, but would it be that much of a bother for you to just pay attention sometimes?
Exactly.
I don't think it should be. And you know what? Like, that's why I'm so loud, because like, I have to be. And that's why I don't want to lose my firearms. Are you kidding me? Like, I like having them. Thank you very much. So it's hard for people to be like, you got to be this way, you got to be that way. And I'm like, no, I got to be me. And me's telling you that this is how we feel, because it's everybody. It's a very divisive issue, and they're like, you only have two options, and that is not true. So, again, like when I see problems like, a really terrible police force doing unhelpful things, yeah, they should not be employed. You should not rely on them for anything anymore. Most people, when they do a terrible job, they lose their jobs, and somehow they're immune from that, and that's not okay.
It's not. In the quality, and this things like when you see like, it's like, how is it not built for them? They have things like qualified immunity when they have like, there's things you can literally lie to get a confession. Like there's just certain things. It's like in any other job they'll be like, you're out of here. Like, but this job, that's like you get a bonus and a vacation.
Yeah, you get some time off. You get to hang out. No, and I think, you know what I mean. All workers should have rights to have something painful happen and take time off for it. But not all of us do. Not, a lot of workers don't have even the luxury of sick days and things like that. That's a reality for people. That, again, it's inconvenient, but that's the truth. I mean, when I was reading up on what happened in Uvalde, they were like, most of the parents and relatives live far, like they work far away. Like the commute is like 40 to an hour or more away, so it took that long for them to get there. And then can you imagine? I don't know. I have kids, and it's just been like really hard to process it all, because I'm just like, the time, like waiting and then getting there and seeing that they're just standing around. It fills me with such anger and rage, and I have to like kind of like hold on to it, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like not the right place, not the right time. But at what time is it going to be right to do the right thing, which is, give power back to the communities.
Exactly.
That's what's necessary. Anybody that's saying that that's like not necessary is a liar.
I agree. And speaking of like action, so we've had action. So we've had a House bill pass yesterday, and it's called the Protect Kids Act, and it's in response to the shootings that we've seen in Buffalo and Uvalde. And as far as I can see, all it does, it will raise the age from 18 to 21 to be able to possess these type of firearms.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Also, recently, wasn't there some like border expansion where like Border Patrol has some other rights to come into your home and do things like that? All of it, I'm like, so you're just trying to further demoralize people because you're good at that. Like, that's your job. It's really, yeah, all of the legislation, like there's various different places to track. I swear, I was like, are you going to say something about trans kids? Because things have been getting bad for them too. And it's like, oh, it's that crisis. Okay, sorry. It's this one right now. How many?
Yeah, it's sometimes it's so hard. Like it is nice to have a overall theme that is like fascism or capitalism sometimes, because you can always connect it back to that one thing, because there's just so much shit happening everywhere all the time, and you're just like, I just I'm surprised everyone's not debilitated in their head, just sitting around, just not being able to move, because sometimes there's just way too much going on.
No, and I really understand that, and I'm like, that's why you really can't, like, you have to keep some for you, because if you can't have hopelessness. And that's one of the things that's very frustrating to me, especially as somebody that's, I really try to get out there and be involved and do direct action and things like that, is that it's like contagious, that powerlessness feeling.
Mhm.
And it's like, no, don't do that. You know what I'm saying? And I can't ever tell what's going to be the catalyst, what's going to really get people to kind of come to that moment that they need to reach, that, you know what I'm saying? Like, this isn't
Exactly.
okay. You shouldn't have to stand for this. That's why I talk about it a lot, but I'm always for a general strike. General strike, 20-30% of the population don't go to work, don't shop, don't, like, no, enough
You
is
heard
enough.
it here.
We're
Delilah
done.
for Texas.
Nobody's really talking
General
about
strike.
that. What's that?
I said you heard it here. Delilah for Texas. Call for general strike.
I'll quit my job to make sure communities are safer. Like, I would, because that's, you know, I think so. Recently, obviously, people were like, "Oh, you want to talk about abortion rights?" And I'm like, "We lost our abortion rights last year." But yes, like, please talk to me about it. But you know, like, that's just, you know, that's the pace here. So when people are like, "Did you hear about this? Did you hear about that?" I'm like, let me write it down, because there's
Like, no one ever
much.
cares when no one ever cares when it's like the first time. Like, everyone only cares when it goes national. But it's like,
Well,
bro,
and
it's been going on locally and
state,
like,
blue state BS. Like,
exactly.
blue states have crappy cops too, buddy.
Sometimes worse.
Yeah,
Blue
that's
states,
true.
because blue states blue states are, they're very, very specific. Like, both types are very specific of how they deal with their racism and their like police forces. But they're both like, it's a lot more open down here in the South. But like in the North, like it's more like, I would say it's more institutionalized, and it's a lot easier to like hide it. But at the same time, it's sometimes a lot more rough. And
you have to think about the money too, because their unions, like, we're talking billions of dollars in those unions. I mean, like, and then they don't even use that money for their court cases. They use the city's money for their court cases for when they make mistakes.
So much money just getting funneled and
I'm just trying to, like, you know, pour some salt in the wound. Like, come on, get with it. Because no, you were like, we're going to talk about this, and I'm like, I'm down. Let's go. I work a 12-hour shift, but I'm ready to talk about this. It's important.
So let's go positive now, Delilah, because we've talked enough negative shit, and we know that the cops aren't going to do a damn thing. But
True.
what
I'm gonna turn the
you
light
are going to do, no worries.
I'm right here.
You're still there. That's great. Hey, that's okay. It's not the first person to walk out in the middle of my conversation. I was in radio for years. I'm totally used to people walking away from me, so it's all good. But the point is that you want to bring something that we're pushing here in Canada. Not enough people want it to make it change, but you want to have a universal basic income. And I think that's one of those things that could help alleviate some of those issues with the household population.
Yeah, that, and ideally, you know, generational traumas and things like that. I think we're supposed to all have rights. At least that's how it was told to me in history class. And we're not, I don't see them. I don't see them. And a lot of people don't feel them, right? And so if we're being perfectly honest, we don't need every single job filled all the time. There's some jobs that we could probably do without now, you know? That doesn't mean that those people who can't function in those jobs shouldn't have a basic income. And a lot of people get stingy with the budgets, but you have to consider that most people, especially poor working class people, are, you know what I mean? Like, most people are like very close to the poverty line, right? Well, there's so much that needs to happen, but a universal basic income could be something that's implemented quickly, and it can kind of level things out for everybody to figure out, how do we go through a just transition? How do we go forward on getting rid of some of these positions that aren't helpful anymore? How do we move forward? And not to mention, people that are disabled are often, I mean, sentenced to poverty immediately because of their disability, which is ableist and terrible practice. So why do we have a society where people are not guaranteed the basic human dignity of, you know, having a little bit of independence and providing for yourself? I think that that's really important. So that's yeah, it's for a lot of reasons that I have it on my platform.
And the other thing that red or blue, it doesn't matter. What is it? Medicare for all y'all? Is that what you just on the platform?
Yep. Yes, it's a statewide single payer. So It saves money. It saves critical care patients, saves lives. I know that I have to put that at the end because people care more about the money first, but that's on the positive side too.
But with the money, you discussed about the fact that there's a lot of waste with the funds right now. I mean, we see it now.
Absolutely.
$40 billion going to a blue-yellow place to play war for a while everyone starves. There's places in Texas, is that correct, that are not using the funds in a positive manner?
So I will tell you one of my biggest problems is the amount of subsidies handed to the fossil fuel industry. Oh, did it go away?
I think his camera just went off.
Okay. So there's a lot of money that gets let me elaborate on why it's wasted. We pay companies to poison our neighborhoods. That's what we're doing with our money right now. So in my mind, like, that's like one of the biggest forms of wasted money that we could do something better with. And then of course our Greg Abbott refused to accept COVID money, specifically for healthcare because he's a bigot. And, it's a situation right here.
Yeah, I mean, call a spade a spade.
Yeah. But yes, it saves money.
Well, I saw an interesting comment about the fact that about housing and rent caps. What would be one of the ways you would implement that? Would you be for housing for all, or would you just go towards a rent cap where people would still be able to have to pay rent, but it would just be lower? And
I don't know. Because like this feels like a housing bubble that's about to burst. If I'm being honest, it really feels sketchy, and so I don't really know what's going to be the best solution for something for the next crisis. I haven't really had to see yet. You know what I'm saying? But I think that most people would support, some sort of like cap on what you can charge for like 400 square feet or whatever studio apartments are right now. I know people who make good money who are like, I can't afford to live in Austin. And I'm like, wait, I'm sorry, what? And they're like, yeah, it's going up from $4,000 a month rent to this. And I'm just like, I have hives now thinking about that. Like
$4,000 for rent.
That's living. Yeah. Yes. And so just to give you an example, like that's how fast it's changing. And I have no idea. Obviously, people in our state make like just terrible wages. Like $20 minimum was what we came up with, and like I don't know that it's even enough, but that's kind of just from people that I talk to, like that would help them. So something needs to happen, but I don't know what the right path is. I know people in California and they're like, those voucher programs suck, and I'm like, okay. I don't have that experience. I don't know. But anything to help people, like really, I'm not trying to play favorites with the industry that doesn't play favorites with the community. So yeah, however we can.
Yeah, one of the main concerns, especially about I think the housing bubble, is the fact that it does feel like it feels like a hyped up version of 2009 again, but this time with like more than one market about to crash. It seems like the world market is about to go into the drain, or is already going into the drain.
We're just witnessing. Like circling the drain right now. It's bad. So, yeah. I mean, like working through the pandemic and COVID, I just like the people that aren't radicalized, like they are not going to be. So like there's like nope, and but most
I totally agree with that.
We have like shortages of things, and it's just been like it's an ongoing. It's super unsustainable. Is like the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like none of this really actually. Yeah, and then the whole space race is just kind of like disgusting too. I'm like, I'm not an Elon Musk fan at all. I don't want to meet him.
No, I've seen a lot of Teslas on our like ramping up around me. Like I'm driving every day now. I see a Tesla. You know, it used to be like that, and I'm just like, I know those people must think they feel so fucking good about not really doing anything for the earth. Like my he solved the first half about like electric, but he won't do anything about transport because he just wants to have everything privatized. Like if he did public,
that's the wrong direction. That's
exactly.
The wrong, that's a colonizer mindset. So I wouldn't look to him for the solutions to the problems he helped create.
But hey, at least AOC's giving her Tesla back.
He hasn't even solved it here in Canada. There's what the government's actually just showed video or whatever of a Tesla that was on fire, that was self-driving.
And you have to,
I don't trust those.
You have to pay an NDA. You just sign an NDA to get a Tesla repaired.
Yeah,
if that doesn't tell you anything, then
I'm among good people right now. No, like that's crazy. I did not know that you had to do that to drive one of his cars. What the hell? What?
No, it's ridiculous.
Gross.
But that's
yeah, I know. Like let's do something positive. I'm all like, okay, let's try. Let's.
No.
So radicalization. You said, like, because I totally agree with you. Like, COVID has proven that the right wing, I like to say the right wing religious fighting fuckwaffles are the ones that are gaining this radical idealist system. But that's what we actually have. And like UBI is one of those radical ideas compared to the colonial imperialist system that our government has right now. How do we come together radically, but not insanely like these other lunatics? Because we need to get the change, but it has to be a change for all, not just, I don't want to wear a mask, that's my right. No, fuck you, it's not your right. Your right is killing people by not wearing a mask or not taking precautions.
Yeah,
that's selfish.
No, it is, and that's exactly it. It's very selfish. So the radicalization you're talking of, like the right wing, that's more of a nationalist sect way of thinking, you know, and it does make you more selfish because you're like, what's mine is mine, and you know what I'm saying, and it's like you have to be right all the time. It's very authoritarian, and that is the wrong trajectory for everybody. It's bad. But when you talk about radicalization of people like socialists and people on the left, people who, you know, are caregivers and somehow radicalized on their own, that's not an aggressive thing. It's an expansion. You know what I'm saying? Like you're expanding your method of caring for other people, and it's more based around community than it is around identity, and that's the right path. And I think honestly that's part of the problem with the left and why we're so easily divided, because you can't cling to these ideals that don't serve you. And that's really, you know, and I think about Canada because we had travelers working who were, you know, originally from there, and they're like, it's crazy with these like truckers. And I'm like, well, how do you feel about the truckers? Like, what's going on? And they're like, you know, and I only talked to a few people, but they're like, I don't hate them. I just think, you know, maybe their anger is misplaced, but you know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people were kind of like, no, I think that that's fair. and I have to hold on to that thought that there's more people like that than the people who are like, you know what I mean, like angry all the time and ready to be violent or always ready to point the finger and blame at others. I think, and there's been a lot of different hot button issues. You know, people are like, you got to take a stand on this, you got to do this. And it's like, it's really not that hard for me personally to take these stances that I see are beneficial to people versus not. I know that most people, of course I work in healthcare, did not have any problems wearing a mask and still wear N95s all the time and are just really good about that because they've seen it and they care. And I don't think that every person that didn't want to wear a mask was absolutely selfish. I just think that they were propagandized and very much stuck to these ideals that don't serve them. that sense of individualism trumping everything else is not very unhelpful, especially at this time.
Well,
Absolutely.
yeah, that was awesome. Well, before we get before we get out of here, I wanted to. Do you want to give a pitch to any of our viewers out there?
I just want to say that I love Sabby, and I wanted you guys to know that. No, because she's like she's been one of the really most kind of like inspirational and supportive people, and so I just wanted to give a little shout to her. But yeah, so we have a website. It's delilahfortexas.com. I am on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And I think there's a Reddit page. I'm not sure. Yeah, that's the election is November 8th, 2022. If you like what you hear or what you see, like, please tell your friends. I know you know somebody in Texas. Please help me out. Just at least to let them know about the options, because it's hard to get through the media blackout here, and that would help a lot.
Very true. And the door's always open. More than welcome to come back on a panel or interview, or just send us a message, and we'll promote the candidacy.
Thank you so much. I'm glad I got to spend some time and energy with you guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right, everybody. We're going to be signing out. We'll see y'all on what's the next thing we're going to be releasing? I guess the next thing will be out and it was overlooked. No, ADC, you have something coming up, right?
No, I have something, but it's like 7 minutes. It'll go out at some point tomorrow, but it's just basically a follow-up on the lawnmower. If you guys watched the last one, we purchased a lawnmower. The first one didn't work. We got a replacement. So when I was going off about capitalism and customer satisfaction, the company that I purchased for, I did the make good in the second video. So we will put that up on the site to give because we always say here on the People's Voice that we're always going to be using integrity. So I was very unhappy and very not very nice to that company when I did that first video. So we did this one a little bit and showing that that product actually works if you don't have a lemon. So like people will get lemons every once in a while. So yeah, it'll be out tomorrow, but you guys probably have your show coming up.
It'll be Monday. It'll be out Monday. We're going to be talking to Eleanor Goldfield from Moment of Clarity, and she's going to be coming on to talk about how Sweden has not historically been neutral, even though that is what we have been told during our days growing up and in school. So everybody look out for that. That'll be out on Monday around 2. And thank you for joining us on the People's Voice Network. Don't forget, like and subscribe. You can check us out on Twitch, Patreon, Rumble, Odysee, Telegram, all the good places. Y'all be easy, and we'll see you next week.